You know the feeling. You've got this brand new, super expensive tech system. It's supposed to change everything, but it's just a letdown. So what went wrong? Well, 9 times out of 10, the secret isn't in the gear itself. It's all about the installation. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the critical details that separate a rock-solid professional job from, well, a ticking time bomb of future problems. So let's just ask it straight up. What is the real cost of a shoddy installation? And I'm not talking about the number on the initial invoice. No, the true price is paid down the road, in frustration, in downtime, and in absolutely staggering maintenance bills. Let's really break down what those hidden costs look like.
Okay, I want you to look at this number. 90%. Just let that sink in for a second. 90% of what? This single number tells you almost everything you need to know about the true price of cutting corners. Yep, 90%. That's how much of your future maintenance budget can get completely eaten up by labor costs. We're talking about technicians spending hours, sometimes even days, just trying to untangle a rat's nest of unlabeled wires or figuring out why something was set up wrong. You see, the real long-term cost isn't about replacing broken hardware, it's about paying people to fix mistakes that were totally preventable. A professional installation isn't an expense, it's an investment against future headaches.
Okay, so how do we build that solid foundation in the first place? Well, it all starts with the basics. The stuff that isn't glamorous, but it is absolutely critical. These are the details that the pros live and die by. These rules might look simple, but oh man, they are so important. First up, service loops. It just means leaving a little bit of extra cable neatly coiled up. Why? So if a connector goes bad, you can just snip it off and put a new one on. You don't have to rip out the entire wire. Second, bend radius. If you bend a data cable too tightly, you can actually cause these tiny little fractures inside, which leads to all sorts of mysterious data loss. And finally, and this is a big one, never ever just lay cables on top of ceiling tiles. It's lazy, it's a code violation, and it's just asking for trouble. And here it is. This is a non-negotiable golden rule. Every single wire has to be labeled. Not just at one end, but at both ends. And I'm not talking about a piece of masking tape with some chicken scratch on it. We're talking about a professional, machine-printed wraparound label. You do this because it will save somebody countless hours and you thousands of dollars when they have to troubleshoot a problem 5 years from now.
Now this next one is all about safety, and it is dead serious. When an installer drills a hole through a fire-rated wall to run a cable, they have effectively broken that fire barrier. They've created a chimney for fire and smoke. So fire stopping is the mandatory process of sealing that hole back up with special fire-rated putty. It's not a suggestion, it's the law.
And this is exactly why it's so important. If a fire ever breaks out and it spreads from one room to another through that little unsealed hole, the consequences are massive. We're talking about the installer potentially being held criminally liable. This tiny detail can literally have life or death implications. So the physical work might be done. The cables are pulled, the devices are mounted, but we are far from finished. A real professional process always includes a rehearsal. This means testing everything to find and fix problems when they're small and cheap to solve, not after the whole system goes live and your entire operation is counting on it. Think about it like you're putting on a play. The factory acceptance test, or FAT, that's the dress rehearsal. You do it at the integrator's workshop, you set everything up on a table, you load all the software, you make sure it all talks to each other, and you work out all the kinks. Then, the site acceptance test, the SAT, that's opening night. That's the final test, at your facility, in its real environment, to make sure everything works perfectly under real-world conditions.
You know, just because a camera is screwed to the wall doesn't mean it's actually doing its job. This next phase is all about the fine-tuning that transforms a pile of hardware into a system that's actually, working right.
This is what we call commissioning, and it's where the real craftsmanship comes in. It's all the detailed little adjustments. For example, you have to make sure the air conditioner kicking on doesn't trigger the motion sensor and send out a false alarm every 15 minutes, or that the brand new security camera is actually focused on the doorway and not the ceiling. This is the stuff that makes the system truly useful.
Okay, so now the system is installed and it's commissioned. You don't just sign the check and call it a day. No way. You have to stress test it. This is called a burn-in period. The idea is simple. You let the entire system run non-stop for a week or so. If anything is going to fail, you want it to fail now, while the installer is still on the hook to fix it.
And the reason we do that burn-in is because of a phenomenon with a pretty intense name, infant mortality. It's a known thing in electronics manufacturing. If a component has a defect from the factory, it is most likely going to fail within the first 48 hours of being turned on. The burn-in period is designed specifically to catch these early failures. If it can survive that, it's probably going to last for years.
All right, we're nearing the finish line. The system is in, it's been tested, it's been calibrated, but how you finish the race is every bit as important as how you start it. So let's talk about how to close out a project like a pro. Before you even think about that final payment, you and the installer do a final walkthrough of the site, and you create what's called a punch list. This is your list of every little thing that's not quite right. A camera that's a bit out of focus, a scuff mark on the wall, a door sensor that's loose. That final payment does not get made until every single item on this list is checked off.
So how do you make sure that punch list actually gets done? Leverage. It is standard practice to hold back the final 10% of the project payment. It's called retainage, and that 10% is held until every last item on that list is finished perfectly. Trust me, money is a fantastic motivator.
Now, here's a fantastic little insider tip for checking the overall quality of the job. During that final walkthrough, just pick a ceiling tile at random and pop it open. If you look up there and see a mess of old wire clippings, dust, and fast food wrappers, that's a giant red flag. It tells you everything you need to know about their professionalism. Fail the inspection right there on the spot.
Okay, we've made it. This is the final and maybe the most crucial step. The work is done, the punch list is clear, now it's time for the official handover. This is the moment where you, the owner, finally get the keys to your new system.
And this right here, this is your final checklist. Do not, I repeat, do not sign that final check until every single one of these items is in your hands. You need the as-built drawings that show where every wire goes, the O&M manuals, all the warranty certificates, and most importantly, you need every single software key and administrator password. Without those last two, you don't really own the system you just paid for.
Look, I'm going to say this again because it is probably the most important piece of advice in this entire explainer. Never, ever pay that final invoice until the manuals and the admin passwords are in your possession. The second that check clears, your leverage evaporates, and suddenly that lost password becomes a much, much lower priority for your installer.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. The next time one of your tech projects is done, ask yourself, is it truly complete? Or have you just paid in full while your installer is still quietly holding all the keys? A professional handover isn't just a formality. It's the moment you take true ownership of what you bought.